right, y'all. Let a few more of you guys get in here before we really get started. Plenty to talk about from the other night. Tough outcome for Mississippi State at LSU, 31-16. The final score really, as all of you know, not indicative of what happened in that ball game, but a disappointing game nonetheless for Mississippi State. And we're going to discuss everything we need to about what happened in that ball game for the Bulldogs on a disappointing evening inside Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge. Probably the, in my opinion, one of the most winnable games at Tiger Stadium that a Mississippi State team has had or can have. I think that this LSU program is not one that's going to be quote-unquote down for very long. I don't think this team is particularly great. I don't think they're going to have a SEC championship type season, and I think most LSU fans will probably tell you the same thing. But I do believe that Brian Kelly is a winner. He's won everywhere he's been. It would really surprise me if he doesn't win at LSU. It would surprise me if he didn't recruit really, really well, because they do with just about everybody they hire. So I think this year was the time to get LSU inside Tiger Stadium, and Mississippi State really blew it. So we'll discuss a little bit about what happened, what Mississippi State did wrong, what they really need to do to get back on track here, which I believe they will this week. But for the next few weeks, there's an opportunity here for Mississippi State to get back going here and to prove themselves once again. I don't think this is the end of the season for Mississippi State. It's just disappointing for everyone that follows the maroon and white that they weren't able to take advantage of an LSU team that was quite diminished as opposed to what they have been in years past. An LSU team that's trying to find itself, that still has not really found its identity, I think, offensively, and was not great on the offensive side of the ball. And by the end of the game, Mississippi State made them look a lot better than they really were. So we're going to kind of break down what went wrong for the Bulldogs there and how they can get back on track. So like I said, I have it in the comments over there. You guys have some questions. You guys have some comments. Do not hesitate to throw them in over there. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. And also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We're a little under 30 subscribers away from 1,000, and that has been my goal from the start. If we get more than that, I'll be really happy. But 1,000 has been the goal that I've set for myself since I started this thing almost a year ago, and we're finally almost there. So if you guys have not subscribed, please do that. Help me out. So, Corey, we'll start with you, Corey Sherman. How many games where the offense performs like they did against LSU does Leech have left before he's forced out? Really, it's just the fact that he can't have, it can't underperform in the season as a whole, in my opinion. I mean, there's going to be games like this, but a lot of times he makes it up by having a game he's not supposed to win, and they come out and perform really well. So, I mean, it really is a bottom line. You need to win 8 games, 7, 8 games, especially this year. I think Mississippi State needs to win 7 or 8, and they need to beat Ole Miss. If they do that, then Mike Leach is fine. But the pressure gets hotter if you win 7 and you lose the Egg Bowl, or you win 6 games. State fans are not going to accept that. I don't think this administration is going to accept that when you're paying somebody $5 million. You shouldn't get $1 million per win. That really doesn't work for a lot of people. So I think, people are going to expect Mississippi State to come out, and I'm not saying this offense has to be spectacular. This team has to be super exciting or anything like that, but you got to win games. And, people are going to be upset when you lose games like you did on Saturday night, but Mike Leach has to follow it up. He's got to make this game up somewhere. There's got to be somewhere on the schedule that we've predicted Mississippi State's going to lose, that they have to win that game. You got to make that up to get to that 8-win total that a lot of people believe Mississippi State can get. 7 or 8 wins is kind of the bare minimum for this team this year. They're good enough. They should be able to do that. Michael, kind of the same thing. If he goes 0-3 against Texas A&M, Kentucky, and Arkansas, does he still have a job? We'll see. That's going to be tough. You lose to those 3 teams plus Georgia and Alabama. You're looking at 6-6 at best. Is that right? That's rough. That's really rough. But listen, I just don't I just don't think that things are as bad as people think they are right now. I don't. I think this was a typical game where Mississippi State comes out and just is kind of deflated a little bit. They're on the road. And listen, we got to give LSU credit too. That is not an easy place to go win. State should have won that ball game. Don't get me wrong. And there was plenty of chances. But it's not easy to go to Tiger Stadium and win. Mississippi State has done it twice in the last 30 plus years, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can correct me on that, but 2014 and 2020, and before that, in the 90s at some point, I don't have it in front of me, but there's been some teams that are worse than this LSU team that has beaten Mississippi State in Tiger Stadium. That's a tough place to play. So I'm not going to make a brash decision on this team based on that ball game. I think this team still can do everything that everybody expects them to do in this fan base. So I think we do need to give them some credit. I think that crowd really shifted the momentum in that ball game. You had the muff punt from Austin Williams, and the game was virtually over. When that happened and the crowd just overtook the game at that point, you gave that offense life that had no life. I think that really kind of gave LSU all the momentum that they needed. So I do think that we have to give Tiger Stadium and playing that game there a little more credit. And that's a game that most everybody picked State to lose coming into the season. That changed last week, but this is nothing has changed as far as my projections preseason where they are right now. I said that they had to be 3-1 going into Texas A&M. That's still a possibility. So let's wait and see beyond that what happens. Zachary Treadway, am I wrong to chalk this up as we were a good team that played a terribly sloppy game? No, that's what I believe. I believe that Mississippi State is still a good team. That's why I just don't think that I can make this this is a Will Rogers thing. It's this is a Mike Leach. Mike Leach is never going to work here and all that stuff. I can't do that. I just think that this was just a bad game for State. And they may prove that theory wrong as the season goes on. I don't know, but I have a feeling this team's going to bounce back in the next 3 weeks. And I'll gladly admit I was wrong if that doesn't happen. But I have a feeling in this home stretch, Mississippi State will get back on track. We'll see if that happens. Cameron Davis, did Johnson get banged up in the middle of the game? Saw more Price and Marks on the field at the same time. Could have. I didn't really pay attention to that. I didn't see. A lot of times, it seems like just about every other game, one or the other of Marks and Johnson is coming out of the game or is banged up. I mean, those guys just take an absolute punishment in these games. So hopefully, if he was injured, hopefully he'll be fine. I didn't notice one way or the other. Michael, he's not going to adapt the offense to win enough games for him to be successful here either. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that completely yet because he is going out and recruiting different style players. I don't think he's going to change the scheme tremendously, but I think he's done some things to adapt. I think that they're starting to put more emphasis on the run and try to open up the running game a little more. Like I said, I think they're going after some more mobile quarterbacks, which I think can really help this offense out if you have a guy that can move around the pocket. So I don't expect him to change his offensive scheme to what Lincoln Riley or guys like that do. But I do think that he's adjusted a few things. And I think that he can still win here. I mean, he's a guy that has consistently been 7, 8, 9 wins everywhere he's been. And I think he can still do that here. I mean, I don't think that this program's in disarray. I think that they can still win 8 games this year. And if you're winning 8 or 9 games in Mississippi State consistently, you will be here for a long time. He's just got to do that. He can't have, 5-win seasons, 6-win seasons consistently. He's got to be around that 8, 9 win range. And I think that's possible, but it's whenever you're not recruiting elite talent and you don't have a whole lot of elite talent, which they have more talent at wide receiver, I think, than they've ever had. A lot of 4-star guys on this wide receiver roster. You have some offensive linemen now and coming up that have Power 5, much more Power 5 offers than they have in the past. They're recruiting about the level they have been. But when you're, kind of middle of the pack in the SEC towards lower half, your margin of error is very small. So Mississippi State can't make a lot of errors out there on the field. You can't have many games like you had against LSU. The talent level at LSU is too high for you to have the mistakes that you do in that ball game and win. And strangely enough, going into the fourth quarter, they still could have won that ball game. So, I just feel like this team is, and under Mike Leach so far, everything's been kind of self-inflicted. They've been in ball games. They've had chances to beat some good teams. They've had chances to win some big road games. They've got to clean up themselves. They've got to be consistent across the board, just like Mike Leach has said. And that starts with Leach too. I mean, he's the head of the table. He's got to be able to get everybody on point. But it really kind of starts with Mississippi State making sure they get themselves in order. Drew Massey. Mr. Drew Massey from Louisville, Mississippi. Which game now, Robbie, do you think State will win that we aren't supposed to? Well, it just kind of depends on your definition. I mean, my definition of game they're not supposed to win is the games that I predicted would be losses preseason. And a lot of those games are toss-up games. Kentucky on the road, I consider kind of a toss-up game. I think State could very much win that game, but I predicted it as a loss. That's a game that he could steal. I predicted A&M and Arkansas as wins, but those would be very big wins for him too if he could take those ball games. Bama and Ole Miss is another one of those games that I think you could technically steal because I predicted that game as a loss, and I think today that would be a game Ole Miss would be favored in. So, there's just one of those games like Kentucky and Ole Miss he needs to take. And he needs to beat Arkansas and A&M and Auburn, which I think I really believe he'll take 2 of those at least. But he needs to win all 3 to get back on track here. And then you're really in good shape. If you go through this stretch here, you beat Bowling Green, A&M, and Arkansas, and you go to Kentucky and you're sitting there at 6-1 or whatever, I mean, who's going to be upset about that? I mean, the LSU game is obviously still in the back of your head, and you start thinking, shoot, we could be 7-0 right now and probably top 10 in the country. And that's true, but you're still going to be a top 15 team probably at that point, and everybody's back on that bandwagon. So things can easily get stretched back to where they were. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. I'm just saying the SEC has not been particularly impressive early on this year to me. Outside of Alabama and Georgia, there really hasn't been a ton of teams that have been that impressive. Ole Miss has looked good against bad competition. What are they? We don't know. Arkansas barely beat Missouri State the other day. Tennessee's looked pretty good, but, I mean, the SEC West is the teams outside of Alabama and the West are up for grabs. We don't know where anybody's going to land. So there's still a lot of football ahead here. None of your business. LSU threw a defense we haven't seen in 3 years. We have had Mike here. Will was not comfortable. I agree. I think that was a big part of that. I think that was Will talked about it post game. They were showing they did a great job scheming up this game, and they did the same thing last year. And it wasn't the same exact defense that they ran last year, if I'm not mistaken. But LSU 2 years in a row has schemed this game well, and they probably played Mississippi State better defensively than anybody else. I thought the scheme was outstanding. And Will said post-game, there was a lot of looks that they gave the offense, and Will determines what looks he's going to see from what sees from the defense, and that's how a lot of those plays work out. And it just, when the ball was snapped, they did something completely different, and it really threw them off. So give LSU credit. I give LSU a lot of credit on the defensive side of the ball. I think that was kind of the the game-changing area for them was what they did defensively. And then Mississippi State on special teams, I mean, you gave away 8 points. That's, again, just like it has been the last 2 years. When you don't play clean on special teams, it comes back to haunt you, and that's what's happened to Mississippi State. They lost games last year because of it. The other day, they missed an extra point on the first possession. Then you drop a punt that Austin Williams catches that punt 80 times in a row, and he drops it at the 10-yard line, and LSU walks into the end zone 3 plays later. I mean, that's 8 points. That's the ball game pretty much. They scored a late touchdown, but that's the ball game. The difference in the ball game was really the special teams plays for Mississippi State. You make the extra point, and you hold on to the football. I mean, LSU probably could have still won the ball game if State doesn't muff the ball there. But I feel a lot better about Mississippi State's chances if they field the ball and they have the ball going into the fourth quarter than I do with LSU sitting on the 10-yard line and about to take the lead. So, I mean, it's just silly mistakes that you cannot make if you want to win ball games on the road in the SEC. Corey, how mobile is Sawyer Robertson? I don't think Leech will ever run an offense with design quarterback runs, but he might be stuck with Rodgers because Rodgers is the best passer. I wouldn't say he's stuck with him. I think Rodgers is the best quarterback. I said that today. I mean, we've seen enough, and I know we haven't seen them on the field in a game, but we've seen enough practices. We've seen enough scrimmages. There's been plenty of situations out there for Sawyer, Braden Locke, and those guys to pass Will Rodgers, and Will Rodgers is clearly the best quarterback. Now, the mobility question, he's more mobile. If a play breaks down, and that's really kind of the difference here, but, I don't know how often in this offense you're going to get a quarterback moving out of the pocket. A lot of these passes by Will Rodgers is snap and throw, snap and throw. We saw that a lot against LSU. Now, when you're standing in the pocket and the pocket's starting to collapse, it would be nice to have a guy that could get out of the pocket and run around. And that's where a guy like Sawyer could be more beneficial. But overall, I still think that Will has the edge on Sawyer Robertson right now. I think Sawyer's ceiling is much higher. But right now, it's just not worth it to make that change. You got a guy – I mean, we forget Will is throwing the ball at an insanely accurate rate. I mean, it's over 70%. That's only been done twice by Mike Leach quarterback, by the way. And Will Rodgers is right now the all-time the most accurate quarterback Leach has ever coached. And he's running the same offenses as those same guys. So, he might not be able to get out of the pocket when he needs to. And there's some decisions he could make quicker. He could get the ball out quicker. He could throw the ball way better. There's even times where he could get out of the pocket and run. And that's something that you want to see him continue to do. But Will is your quarterback. I think he's the best guy for the job, especially right now. And he's still going to win a lot of ball games for Mississippi State this year. And he's going to put up a lot more yards. This was a bad game. But I just think we got to get past every time there's a bad game by Mississippi State, they lose the game, I feel like this conversation comes up. And I'm not picking on you, Corey, because it's been all over the place. Not everybody, but a lot of people want a change. But I just feel like Will is the guy. He's the guy for the job, and I think he's running the offense almost as good as anybody that Leach has ever coached. He's done a great job, but not a great game the other night. Cameron Davis, you think DeCamerion could be a legit QB cornerback one in the SEC once Forbes leaves? I think so. I've been really impressed with DeCamerion Richardson. He made some good plays the other day. I think he led the team in tackles. And he's good in run support. You rarely see him just getting flat beat down the field. I'm really excited about him. And that's a kid that, coming out of high school, a lot of people were excited about for just the pure athleticism that he has. Very athletic kid coming out of the state of Louisiana, was extremely raw, but he's coming to his own. And I think he's kind of the next guy for Mississippi State at cornerback. I don't think there's a whole lot to worry about with him next year. I think he can definitely handle that. And what was telling about that is, I didn't think Marcus Banks was bad in the spring or in the summer. but he locked that position down, and it was never really in doubt. And I mean, that should have told us back in the fall, which we did discuss that. We felt like he was the number 2 guy, but should have told us how good he was, that he was able to lock that position down, because he hasn't relinquished it yet. He's done a really good job. Adam, to me, I think people are overreacting big time. Should we have won by 2 TDs? Yes, but we played bad. It happens. Yeah, I think there has been a little bit of overreaction on the internet, but that's happening at every fan base across the country. I mean, there's people all over that were calling for coaches to be fired. I mean, LSU's fan base wanted Brian Kelly fired after game 1. It's just, it comes with the territory. You play on this level, and you're paying somebody this much money. I mean, people expect to win these games. And I think a lot of State fans just expected to win. And that's a good sign. I mean, and that should be, I think, too, that should tell you where this program is under Mike Leach. You guys expected to go to Tiger Stadium. I mean, just think about that, and win a ball game. How many times in your lifetime have you expected to go to LSU and see Mississippi State win? I can tell you how many times I've expected it, like once or twice in my entire life. I've hardly ever expected Mississippi State to go there and win, and I projected them to win this game. And I haven't looked back at my other projections over the years. This might be the first. So that's really, to me, telling about where Mike Leach has it. You guys expect this team to win, so that should tell you that this program's in pretty good shape. But State's got to prove it. They've got to go out there. They got to win a big game like this. You had everybody watching this game, talking heads on ESPN, SEC Nation, people beyond that, sports writers everywhere, started to get high on Mississippi State. A lot of people projected Mississippi State to win this game nationally. A lot of people called Mississippi State a dark horse coming in this game. We said that on our podcast the other day, this was starting to feel a little bit about like 2014. State had it right there in their grasp to do it. And if they win that ball game by 1 point, people were really starting to believe in this team. And now you kind of diminish that, at least for a few weeks. I think the opportunities are still there, like I said. I mean, you go beat Bowling Green, A&M, and Arkansas, you're going to be the talk of the SEC again. You'll be right back in that conversation, but you got to do it now. That was kind of your one mulligan here. Now you don't get many more chances the rest of the way. You're probably going to lose to Alabama and Georgia. Beyond that, every single game on the schedule beyond those 2 teams, the top 2 teams in the country, is there. You can win every one of those games. All those teams are beatable. State just has to do it. And, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's tough to sustain that all year in the SEC. You have to have a special team, especially at places like Mississippi State, to do that. The schedule's daunting, but State, like I said, is talented enough, experienced enough to do it. Mason Welch, what do our fans expect? I've seen people wanting Mullen back, and he only averaged 7 wins. Yeah, I mean, Mullen was not that much better. I mean, he helped you get to that first number 1, that first 10-win season in a while. But other than that, I mean, he had a 5-win season one year in 2016 and went to a bowl game just because of your APR rankings. I mean, that year he wasn't even supposed to go to a bowl. He had that year in 2012 that started off so great and then just kind of tanked there at the end of the year. And his record in the SEC and against SEC West teams is not good, by the way. So, yeah, he did a great job getting Mississippi State stability and consistency, getting him back to bowl games. But, I mean, nobody has really set the world on fire at Mississippi State really ever. I mean, Alan McKean. I mean, Jackie Sherrill, as beloved as he is, was 500. None of your business. If Will falls flat again during a big game, do you think Leach pulls Will and puts Sawyer in? I doubt it. I think they're just going to roll with them at this point. And I don't really know how many bad games he's going to have. Like, under 300 yards is a bad game for him in this offense. But for the most part, I mean, he's going to have over 300 yards. He's going to complete 70% of his passes, and he's going to give you a chance to win. But we talked about that a little bit on our podcast. I mean, Mississippi State should not be having games where the offense is the problem. This is why Mike Leech was brought in to Mississippi State, for the offense to be exciting, for the offense to put up a lot of points. And that shouldn't be your issue. It was supposed to be the defense. But the defense has kept you in most ball games. The offense can't have games like this. And it seems like when they do have games like this, they lose. So, I mean, you can't have 16 points. State had every opportunity in that game to get some things done. And again, credit to LSU too. I don't want to blame Mississippi State's offense completely, but they were to blame on some things. Reggie Williams, 0 targets for Harmon. We need all of our receivers to contribute. Yeah, I don't know how many guys you're going to see in that rotation. I think they're really starting to narrow down their rotation. They're trying to get guys reps so you're consistently in that motion. And so, I don't know how many reps you're going to see from guys like Harmon and Justin Robinson. Their big problem is they need to get the ball to guys like Tulu Griffin more. I mean, he is not getting enough touches. Design a play, put a jet sweep in, roll him into the backfield, hand the ball off to him. Do something to get him more touches, because it seems like almost every time he touches the ball, there's a big play there to be made. Look at what he did on the kick returns the other day. I mean, he takes that kick back 80-plus yards if there's not a block in the back, way behind the play. I mean, he did that mostly on his own. He is an electric playmaker. When he gets in the middle of the field, it is very difficult to catch him. And he had 2 solid returns in the game, had a couple of nice catches. They just got to figure out a way to get him the ball more. And I don't know if it's moving him inside to the slot, getting on the field more, making Will throw him the ball, hand the ball off to him. I don't know. But there's got to be a way. And we've been talking about this now for 3 years, and it's still not happening as much. And it was asked today of Mike Leach, is there a way that Ra Thomas and Tulu Griffin get on the field? And I just don't see it happening. So it's just crazy. I don't know what else you have to do. Rambo, we got the talent at wide receiver to run the air raid. We just got to execute better. I agree. I think that's something that you got to do. That's basically what I said earlier is, State has had issues because of their own doing. That they're making mistakes, they're having penalties, they'll have a turnover, they'll have a 3-and-out here. It's kind of, they can't get out of their own way in games like this. You got to find a way to execute a little better, and you're winning these games. Because, I mean, the margin of error in these games, like the LSU game, Arkansas game last year, Memphis game last year, and the LSU game last year as well, those games, the margin of error was, or the margin between the win was very small. I mean, State makes 1 or 2 more plays in those games, you're looking at 9 or 10 wins, and that's crazy. But that's how close Mississippi State is from being, just a bowl-eligible team to a team that's competing and taking the next step in the league. And that's just a few plays here and there, but that's a long way to go. If you're missing those plays, you got to be better across the board, and you got to be better across the board for a long period of time where those plays aren't happening. So, that's a big point of emphasis the rest of the season. State has got to execute better. This is a veteran team. They should be playing better than they are. And they have that opportunity to prove anybody doubting them wrong the rest of the way. I mean, this is a long season left. We're 3 games in the season. State's just 2-1. The season's not over. I mean, somehow if State just was, magically gifted with 5-star talent in the middle of the season, they could still go to the playoff if they win the rest of their ball games. Not going to happen, but that's how long of a season you still have left. So you're exactly right. They have to execute a lot better. Mason, glad to see you enjoying Canes this weekend. Can we get a TNL live event where you and Hey Dad have chicken tender war games? I've been trying to get Hey Dad. He has told me that Canes and everything else is the same. All the chicken tenders taste the same. I vehemently disagree with that. So he has told me he will get me a Cane's chicken tender and a Zaxby's chicken tender, and I will not be able to tell the difference. And I want money on the line with this. I want Hey Dad's hard-earned cash in the middle of the table to prove to him that I know the difference between a Cane's tender and a Zaxby's tender. They are not the same. Cane's is, to me, the ultimate chicken tender, and I very much enjoyed that chicken tender at about 1:30 a.m. at the original Cane's, by the way. That is the first Cane's. Was this ESPN alert? Just making sure it wasn't fantasy football related. That's the first Cane's, I believe, in existence in Baton Rouge. That's what I was told by Baton Rouge native Trey Mongrue, so blame him if that's wrong. None of your business. This offseason, do you think Mike moves Tulu to inside in regards to his comments during the press conference? Said he needs several weeks to know where and he needs to get where he's going. We'll see. I still have not understood Tulu outside. And, those coaches are infinitely smarter than I am. So I know there's a reason he's there. To me, he just looks like a prototypical slot. And maybe that's just my knowledge of the game is just so small. I mean, it could very well be. But it feels like if he was inside and you're able to free up, some of those guys on the outside too, and get your best guys on the field, Mississippi State's offense can hum a little more. I don't know. I don't know if it happens or not. I believe that they've taken a step in the right direction with their recruitment for guys like Chris Parson. So I'm not going to completely dismiss Mike Leach. There's something or someone that is telling him he needs to change something in his offense. So we'll see. Rambo, we need to focus on recruiting an elite left tackle because an elite pass rusher can neutralize the air raid. Yeah, but that's an elite pass rusher is going to neutralize just about anything. That guy's going to be terrorizing just about every offense there is. So I don't think it's really necessarily just an air raid thing. I think that's just, you got to give credit to LSU's defense too. They were bringing a few more guys against that offensive line, and all those guys are 4- and 5-star players. They're all legit. There's going to be several NFL guys on that defensive line and linebacker crew. They did a good job bringing pressure from different spots and making things difficult on that offensive line. But, yeah, I think State's offensive line is going to be fine. I like the guys that they've recruited. They're just slowly bringing those guys along. This year's kind of a transition year for them offensively on the offensive line, which I know they're losing their center, but I'm not too terribly concerned about the center position moving forward. Stephen Lasoya, I've heard some really good things about him. I thought he did pretty good in the in training camp, so I think they'll be okay. And the rest of the guys, I think, are going to be fine. By next year, you hope that Percy Lewis is ready for that left tackle spot. You hope that Albert Reese is ready for that right tackle spot, and I think that you really improve if those guys are up to speed from a talent standpoint. So, all right, any more questions? Good conversation as always, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Once again, closing in on those 1,000 subscribers. Just trying to reach that goal I've been wanting to get. So I appreciate you guys if you subscribe, and always appreciate you guys tuning in. I enjoy doing these every Monday. Some great conversations that we have. We'll be doing this again next Monday, of course, and hopefully talking about a Mississippi State win. If you didn't see earlier, I reported, and Mississippi State is now released. There are game jerseys, official jerseys, now available for sale. State fans have been kind of clamoring for that for a while now, getting a player jersey, and that is now available. So you can go to, I believe Fanatics has them, and you can get whatever name or number you want on those jerseys, and they benefit the players in NIL too. So it's for a good cause as well. So you can check that out. Also, should be seeing some cool stuff from Home Field Apparel tomorrow. I think you'll see some stuff related to the game coming up this weekend. A little bit of a Frank Dowsing, Robert Bell memory coming for you tomorrow, I believe. There's going to be plenty of that out there. So you guys check out that stuff. Cool stuff coming. And down the line, I think you guys will be really happy with some of the stuff that Mississippi State releases as far as apparel is concerned in the next year or so. So some good stuff coming out. Go check that stuff out for Christmas items or whatever you got going on. All right, guys, appreciate you. Have a great rest of the week. We will see you on Saturday, 11 a.m. kickoff for Bowling Green. If you see me, say hey. Check out Thunder and Lightning all week. Support us there. Come check out 247. Subscribe over there if you aren't already. Otherwise, stay safe. Stay hungry. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say with that, but have a good week.